Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It's week 12 of college football. I'm joined by Ian Robbins and Trey Edge here. We're going to go through some games this week, two featured matchups, three rapid fire games, and off your way for college football this week. So first off, Trey, congratulations last week, 3-0 middle of the week, 5-0 on the weekend. Great week. We lost the North Carolina game. Well, we didn't lose it. We pushed. Very horrible ending there with Howe getting the ball snapped over his head. Tough break, but a push is, I guess, not a loss in the gambling world. It's kind of a win. So we'll count it on our side. Moving to this week, we got some playoff implications, big playoff implications, actually, in the two featured games. And then we have some playoff teams playing in our rapid fire matchups as well. So with no further ado, let's move right along. 12 o'clock Saturday, number 7 Michigan State is visiting Ohio State. This spread opened up 20 points. It opened up at 18, and it is now 20.5. What do you guys got? Ian, you want to go first?
Yeah, Ohio State, Michigan State, huge game in the Big Ten, a huge game for the Big Ten title, playoff implications. Enormous spread. You got two top 10 teams going at it, and you got almost a 20-point spread. Seems crazy. Kind of spread that I look at and you say, whoa, why is one team getting 20 points when they're ranked in the top 10? One lost Michigan State team getting over 20 points or getting close to 20 points. And that makes me pause and think, why are they getting almost 20 points? And Ohio State, they did have the one slip up at Nebraska, and I think that was a little bit of a look at the head spot. But their offense is rolling. Their team is rolling. They've been on that mission ever since that loss. It's tough sledding to go through the Big Ten unscathed. You're going to have some close games here or there, and I just think they totally outmatch Michigan State. Look at the firepower that Ohio State has with C.J. Stroud at quarterback, Trayvon Henderson at running back. But then you look at three potential top picks on the outside: Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith. Call him Jackson Smith, and I don't want to botch his last name. But those guys are so good that their fourth receiver transferred to Alabama, and he's their number one receiver. They're Jameson Williams. So that's how good these Ohio State receivers are. And then you look at the matchup on the other side at Michigan State, and Michigan State's coming out here with the number last rated pass defense in the country. That is the last rated pass defense in the country for Michigan State. This is a nightmare matchup for Michigan State to go to the horseshoe to play Ohio State and their big-time passing attack. And I just don't see how Michigan State could hang with Ohio State. And I don't see any reason why Ohio State wouldn't pound Michigan State if they got the chance. They didn't let up against Purdue. I don't think they're going to let up against Michigan State. I see this game getting a little bit out of hand. I think it's going to get out of hand early wake-up call. And I think Ohio State runs through 3+ touchdowns easy on Michigan State. Michigan State's only chance is to control the pace with Kenneth Walker on the ground. I just don't think it's going to happen. Ohio State, their firepower on the outside. C.J. Stroud's going to maybe throw for 400 yards this game. Big time win for Ohio State this weekend.
Yeah, I got to go. It's funny. You mentioned that. If you just look at what these defenses have done, they're really good against the run, both of them. Michigan State is 23rd rushing defense in the country. Ohio State 17th. It's going to be about who can throw the football. Well, who do you trust in that matchup? You mentioned C.J. Stroud. He's got 30 touchdowns and 5 interceptions on the year. Crazy stats. They put up 353 a game through the air. I mean, everything's going to be determined, unless it just goes completely off kilter in terms of game plan, by what Ohio State can do in the air and what Michigan State can go through the air. And you just don't trust Michigan State to be able to do that to Ohio State, even though if you say there's a weakness in Ohio State's team, you point at their secondary. It's not a weakness. It's just not as good as the rest of the defense. I don't trust that from them. The thing is, also Ohio State, people think about them playing close games. If you look at their stats this year, they've been favored by over 20 points 4 times. They've covered in 3 of those games. And last weekend was a dangerous spot for them. Everybody was talking about Purdue because of what Purdue had done to Michigan State when they were undefeated. Ohio State throttled them 59-31. I don't really anticipate much different there. difference there. I mean, that defense gives up 442 a game. That's 12th most in the country for a team that has one loss. It's kind of incredible if you think about it, that a team that's highly ranked, 7th in the BCS rankings, giving up that kind of yardage. I just don't think they've played this kind of offense. I think, we talk about Ohio State and how good they are, averaging 46 points a game. I'm with you. I think Ohio State runs this one. I think, we talked kind of in our pregame here about how the public will see this and they keep it under that 3-touchdown spread, 19, 20, somewhere in there. I love that it stays there because I think 3 touchdowns is the right side. I'm with you, Ian. I think Ohio State will cover that spread. Interesting on the total. I don't know that I can play it because it just goes against my intuition about how much Ohio State can do here offensively. But it's kind of crazy. The under in this series is 5-1 in the last 6 games. In the last 5 games they've played at Ohio State, under's 5-0. It's just, personnel changes. I get all that. But it is a trend. It's sitting there at 66.5. Everything leads you to say by the numbers it's under. But, again, can they stop Ohio State from scoring 45 points? I'm not sure they can. I think it's a small lean to the under, but on the spread, I'm with you. I think Ohio State absolutely rolls this weekend.
Yeah, just to add one quick thing, and I think we're in agreement here. If you're going to look at a very muddled Heisman market, C.J. Stroud might be a pickup this weekend.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, probably to hammer 2 points home there. I agree with the Purdue. I think Purdue and Ohio State match up a little better speed-wise, but I think Ohio State's the alpha in that matchup, and I think that's where Michigan State was lacking. So if they couldn't cover Purdue on the outside, I don't know that they're going to be able to match up with Ohio State on the outside. That's going to be a big mismatch. And with that being said, another point to hammer home, those unders Trey was just talking about, Mel Tucker came out and he's made it public that he's not willing to get in a shootout with Ohio State. So
good luck.
What you want, but I mean, whether he wants to get in a shootout or not, it's not going to happen. So I think that both points you guys made are great points, and I just think that this is a bad matchup for Michigan State in almost all facets of the game unless they can really, really get that running game going. Let's move along. Another game with some playoff implications. Only for one team out in the Pac-12, but it's the only team in the Pac-12 with implications for the playoffs this year. Oregon, number 3, facing Utah, 7:30. This line opened at 2.5. It's now at -3, and its over/under is 59. Trey, what do you got for us?
Utah, I've loved them all year. It's one of those teams out there in the Pac-12 that's a really good quality football team that not a lot of people talk about. Oregon gets all the pub because they beat Ohio State. They're in the top 4 in the BCS. I've not been somebody who has trusted their quarterback, Anthony Brown, all year. It's hard to say that because they've only lost one game. I just don't see him as a premier throwing quarterback. He's got a lot of talent running the football. You look at that line, it was 2.5. Now it's 3. What's going to happen in this game? It's interesting. Everybody associates Oregon with high-flying, spread-it-out football. They rushed for 300 yards last week in the win against Washington State. You're not going to do that against a Utah defense. Now, this is a different caliber of team that they're playing, a very physical team. Utah themselves averages 214 yards rushing a game. And I found a kind of a crazy stat, and you really got to dig into the weeds on stuff like this. Does this mean the game's going to go a certain way? Not necessarily, but when you look at making plays at certain times in games, Utah has been so clutch all year long on third down. They're ranked 29th in the country. Oregon is 112th on defense and giving up third down conversions. That's really, that's kind of geek number stuff. But in a game like this, it matters when you're playing a Utah team that's going to want to do what? Control the football, control time of possession, not let the dangerous athletes from Oregon get out there. These are two teams that are hot. Utah 3-game winning streak, Oregon 5-game winning streak. I like Utah here. I like them at home. It's a huge game. Oregon kind of has that Pac-12 North title wrapped up. Utah has a game lead over Arizona State, but they do hold the tiebreaker. I like Utah here. And a quick note on the over-under at 59. 7 of Utah's 9 games have gone over, and they've gone over that 59-point total 6 times this year. You wouldn't think that, And in this matchup, last 8 games between these two teams, 7-1 to the over. Interesting notes there on the total, because you would associate Oregon with some big numbers, not necessarily Utah. So I'm leaning both here, Utah and the over.
Yeah, and the third down stat, I love those stats because that's really kind of where the game's determined. You watch a game, who's converting on third downs, who's giving up the third downs. That's really where the game is. And I look at this line, Utah -3, and I love these kind of lines because you look at a line and you dig into a number just like this and you say, all right, Utah ranked 24 in the polls, home team 7-3, Oregon, number 3 team in the college football playoffs, 1 loss, win at Ohio State. They're coming in red hot and they're an underdog. How's that possible? How can the number 3 team in the country be an underdog and actually have the line move against them on the early on? And that just screams out to me. This line says everything. And the right team is favored. Utah, the right team is definitely favored in this game. Utah's had a couple of bad losses, bad performances. Coming off last week, a very closer than expected win against a very bad Arizona team. But I think that's a look-ahead spot through and through and through and through. And this could be potential match 1 of 2 with Utah-Oregon this year. But I think there's no question that Utah was looking ahead to this Oregon game because Utah's playoff hopes are done. Their best chance is to get that New Year's Six Bowl in and win the Pac-12, and they're very, very well capable of doing that. And they got to make that statement right now. And you look at the teams a little bit. You broke down kind of the strengths and weaknesses there. Looking at Oregon, they still have their number 1 running back out, C.J. Verdell. He got hurt earlier. He's out for the season. That hasn't really come into effect. They've been able to beat lesser teams in the Pac-12, but they haven't faced a team that's as talented as they are. And Utah's not as talented as they are, but they're a solid, established program in the Pac-12. They do have it. Oregon was tied with Washington State at halftime last week, able to run away and win by 2 touchdowns, ended up pushing the spread. But with Verdell out, Travis Dyce had become a one-man show at running back with Anthony Brown, who's been a do-it-all quarterback. And he's been running great. He's been playing great. Can he make enough plays to beat a legit team on the road? And we've seen the home road factors in these big games this year. The home field advantage is real this year. Fans are back. The home field advantage is real. This is a huge game for Utah. Utah fans are going to love this game. It's a tough place to play, too, up in the mountains. So I definitely think the pressure is going to be on Anthony Brown to deliver in a similar way that he did earlier this year. Watching this game, Kayvon Thibodeau, who's a defensive end for Oregon, he might be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft next year. Can we neutralize him? Well, that's going to be the question. And as a pass rusher, you flip to Utah, and Utah's strength is in their best player, Tavion Thomas, the running back, who's been a great player. Utah's always had a great run game, and Tavion Thomas has just fit right into that. They as you said, they rush for over 200 yards a game. Utah's going to look to control the ball, score. I think Thomas is going to have a big game. I do like Utah -3. Like Utah to win. I think they're going to win by a touchdown more in this game too.
Yeah, I think Utah's really turned the corner after that rough start, quarterback controversy, getting rid of the quarterback headache in the locker room. I think they're headed in the right direction, and an Oregon loss could open the door for everybody's sweetheart, Cincinnati. So maybe some people are cheering for that, rooting for it. But they have to take care of their business as well. So that's all we have for featured games this week. And don't worry, everybody, David will be back next week as your host on college football. I'm just taking his place this week. He had something he had to take care of. So let's move into some rapid fire games. And the first one we have on our schedule for you is another game with a very large spread, but we have the number 2 team in the country, Alabama. Arkansas visits Alabama, 3:30 p.m. The opening line, 22, down a couple of points to 20, and 56 is our over-under. Ian, which way are you going to go here?
Arkansas, Alabama, you want to lean Alabama every single time, but something that you take note of, especially this time of the year, is that these teams, they play up, they get up for one game. They have one game to play up for, one game to play up for. Arkansas got embarrassed against Georgia. They're no Alabama. This could be their Super Bowl. Alabama is playing a playoff game every single week. They have no margin of error. They might not even make the SEC championship game if they slip up in the regular season. So they got to be tread very, very carefully. And Arkansas knows that they want to truly make this a successful season, which it definitely has been a turnaround, then they can play with Alabama. Even though the game is at Alabama, that 3-touchdown spread in a conference game against a familiar foe who's playing up, I do think that's a little bit too much. We saw Alabama play with some of their teams. LSU kept it tight. I think these teams who know him are familiar with with Nick Saban, and the coaching staff and the players are going to play up. I like Arkansas getting some points here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with you, and I kind of look at styles of play here. Bryce Young, the quarterback for Alabama, is getting all the pub. Over 3,000 yards passing, 33 touchdowns. I mean, what an incredible season for this kid. But what does Arkansas want to do? They want to run the football. They run the football 65% of their plays. And that's a crazy stat in 2021 football. You don't see teams run the ball that often. Can they do it? Alabama has the 4th best rushing defense in the country. You flip that, Arkansas 5th best rushing offense in the country. It's a clash right there at the line of scrimmage, and I don't think Arkansas will be swayed if they're not successful early with that. They've got to control tempo. They've got to control the game. One thing I'll look at, if Alabama gets out early, watch your live bet, because Arkansas will not be able to play from behind. It's not in their DNA. People get fooled by that game with Ole Miss when it was 52-51. That's not Arkansas style. It's not going to be their style this weekend for sure. There's been a lot of points put up by both of these teams since Alabama's lost to A&M. They scored 49-52. They did have the 20-point game. They scored 59 last week. And 4 games for Arkansas. 61 points in the Texas game, 103 in the Ole Miss game, 61 in the Auburn game, 59 in the Mississippi State game. So that over-under sitting at 56, I'm inclined to go over. But I'm with you. It seems like a really big spread for an SEC game that, again, you're playing a team that, in essence, this is their season. They're not going to the playoffs. They're playing for bowl game and making a statement. They've been good all year, and I'm with you. Do I think Alabama's going to win this football game? Sure I do. But I would absolutely take Arkansas with getting almost 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, I think we saw earlier in the year that Arkansas can't play from behind. Georgia showed that, and I think Georgia was bigger than them on the line of scrimmage, which I believe Alabama is too. And I think Arkansas is going to struggle to run the ball here, and we're going to see another struggle from Arkansas on a big stage, and I think they'll struggle to run the ball. They'll fall behind early, and and then turn the ball over trying to come back from behind, just like they did against Georgia. So we'll move along. Everybody's sweetheart, another 3:30 game, Cincinnati, SMU at Cincinnati. They have them at home. So this opened at 15 points. It's down to 12. Ian, what do you got here for us?
Well, just talk about Cincinnati, kind of the same statement that I had about Alabama last week. All these teams that Cincinnati's playing, it's really, really tough to win week after week. And Cincinnati's been winning 2 years in a row, week after week. And I think one or two things you can look at happening. Every team who's playing Cincinnati, that's their Super Bowl. They want to be the team that breaks their streak, at least regular season undefeated streak. And, they play up. You see bottom feeders play for their season against Cincinnati. So sometimes you get hard games. And it's tough for a team like Cincinnati to get up when they're a 20-point favorite and play against lesser competition when they know they're getting their best shot. But now Cincinnati's got a real team in SMU, a legit team, a top 30 team that was ranked for a lot of the year, had two tough losses to Houston and Memphis. And now they got back on track last week against UCF. Now they're coming in for Cincinnati. And I think this is Cincinnati's time to step up or kind of step aside. And the chances are there. Oregon, who's ahead of them, underdog on the road. Michigan State, Ohio State, one of those teams is going to lose. Michigan's got some tough games on deck. Alabama's got a tough game every week. This is where Cincinnati has their chance. And I think they match up very well against SMU's pass heavy offense against Tanner Mordecai, the quarterback. They got 2 NFL DBs, 2 NFL cornerbacks who could play man to man. You got that. You can try to generate pressure in any way that you want. And this is their matchup. And Desmond Ridder, the quarterback's got to put on a performance, get a chance to score some points against SMU. Games in Cincinnati, I believe, right? Games in Cincinnati. Yeah. So they're going to have the home crowd behind them. Big time game, big time matchup, big time players. Time to step up, Cincinnati. And will they? I think they will. And I think if they get up, they're not going to stop. So if they get up 2 touchdowns early, I think they're going to keep going. I think the matchup suits out well for them. They got the corners to match up against SMU. I do like Cincinnati to make a statement here.
Ian and I do this every week. We've got to differ on one, right? It's not confident, but I love that you brought up one point, and I had it written down here. We don't talk about these things before, just so people know when we're doing our little research and everything. But when you mentioned Cincinnati getting after SMU's quarterback, SMU the entire year has given up 2 sacks. Think about that for a minute. 2 sacks the entire year. On the flip side, SMU has no pass rush themselves. I mean, you're talking about 2 offenses. SMU's the 6th highest scoring team in the country. Cincinnati's the 9th highest scoring team in the country. I just go to history and I look at what Cincinnati's been doing. Yeah, they got that 45-28 win against South Florida, 28-20 over Tulsa, 27-20 over Navy. Do they have a look-ahead game? No. I mean, they've got ECU, which is going to be tougher than people think in Greenville Thanksgiving weekend. But I just have not seen enough from Cincinnati to give me that kind of confidence with that kind of spread. Again, I think they win the game. I think another example on our schedule of a team's season, if you want to call it their national championship, this is SMU's. They lost 2 of their last 3 games. They won their last one, but this is it for them. This is their chance to make their statement as much as it is for Cincinnati to make theirs in the playoffs. So, you got to watch this spread, man. Started at 15, it's down to 12. If it keeps going down, that's going to change my mind. Seriously. Because starting at 15, I liked it. You like that getting 2 touchdowns, a little less so when it's at 12, but I'm going to go with SMU to just keep it. I can see Cincy winning by 10.
Yeah. I think 2 touchdowns was the number for me here in this game.
Yeah.
I think it's an SMU, or it was SMU at 15, probably Cincinnati here at 12. But I think it could go both ways. Like Ian said, I think Cincinnati could get out and keep it going and keep getting ahead of them and blow them out, or it could be close the entire game. Cincinnati's played a couple of close games all year long, but we'll probably know by halftime what kind of game Cincinnati's going to play here. Another 3:30 game. This one is for the ACC championship, I believe.
Coastal. Yeah.
Virginia at Pitt. We have an opener at 11. It is now 13.5, 67. Trey, we'll go to you first. Your neck of the woods, the ACC. How about it? What do you got here for us?
Yeah, the story here is UVA's quarterback, Brennan Armstrong. Did not play last week. They listed him as a game-time decision. I mean, he's 3rd in the country in passing yards, over 3,534 TDs. Kenny Pickett on the other side, over 3,532 TDs. Everybody's going to look at this. Points galore. Virginia's given up so many points this year. They've also scored a ton of points, but it's about this quarterback. I believe he's going to play. They obviously haven't announced today whether he's in or not. I kind of think last week against Notre Dame, they held him out because in reality, that game didn't mean anything. Mm-hmm. This game means everything to Virginia. They can win the ACC Coast. Will be playing the ACC championship game if they win this one. So you've got to watch the news as the week goes on. Pitt's 8-2, by the way, against the spread. I mean, that's, you talked about UNC losing last week. Yeah, losing in many ways. Lost the game, which hurt me as well. But these defenses, UVA's given up over 30 points a game. It's a lot of points for a college defense to give up. But Pitt can give up points too, 34 to Tennessee, 38 to Miami, even 29 to Duke. So, everybody's going to expect a shootout here. It all rides on the left arm of Brennan Armstrong. If he plays, I actually think they could go over this 67, no problem. Virginia's shown no ability to stop anybody. If Armstrong doesn't play, it's Pitt. You take Pitt, especially getting under 2 touchdowns. But you've got to watch if Armstrong is playing. I like the over as my primary. If Armstrong plays, if he doesn't play, I'm Pitt all day because the backup quarterback for Virginia will not get it done.
Yeah, I actually think that's why the early line movement is. Pitt picked up a couple of points just on potential of Armstrong not playing. And you mentioned last week's game for Notre Dame against Virginia, not really mattered for Virginia. I'll take it back one more week. They went to BYU. They went out to the mountains of BYU and played a road game against another independent and high-scoring game, high-flying game. I think that game had over 100 points scored in it, but they also lost. So that's 2 weeks in a row Virginia's gone out of conference on the road. And we're not talking about just a typical, just any general out of conference games. We're talking about going to BYU to play, and we're going to Notre Dame to play, 2 very high-powered independent programs. But they knew all along that this game against Pitt was their season because this is the game to get them in the ACC title game. And we talked about that a couple of weeks ago. We talked about taking a Virginia future for the ACC at 25-1, and kind of comes down to this game that we're sitting on here. But I do think Armstrong sat. I think they kept it quiet. They knew all along he was going to sit. Kind of, okay, we're going to play Notre Dame, whatever. Hey, we're on TV, but doesn't really matter because we're going to get a much bigger game if we win this game against Pitt. Pitt, I think they hit a peak. Escaped in the weather at home against North Carolina, against Trey's Tar Heels last week. If Armstrong plays, I do think Virginia can get out of here with a win. I just think they've been looking at this game for many, many weeks, probably preparing for this game for many, many weeks, how to stop Kenny Pickett. And I think that's what it kind of comes down to. If Armstrong plays, which I think he will, then go Virginia here. Hopefully you can get up to over 2 touchdowns if that news does break.
Absolutely. I'm with you.
Yeah, what a wild turn of events the ACC has been this year for everybody's sake. I mean, if you have a Pitt or a Virginia ticket, you're a lucky guy or a mind reader, one of the two. That's it for college football this week, guys. Follow us on YouTube, the Line Movers Network. Follow us on Twitter, _LM Network. Thank you. We appreciate all the follows. Visit our website, thelinemovers.net. A lot of good information on there. Sign up for our daily emails. We include a lot of good information in that as well. Some of the biggest games, some of our bets that we kind of just make every single day. We got some first period bets we like in hockey going on all the time. So again, you can get some golf information there on our website. You can get the golf podcast. You can find some NASCAR podcasts, even though the season's over. We'll be back in February with that. So give us a follow, give us a like, give us some retweets, interact with us. We'd love to hear what you guys are thinking, what you're betting on as well. It's not just about what we're betting on. We'll respond to your bets and tell you if we like them as well. Anything you guys have to add for the people?
Big time week for the playoff implications. We're taping this Monday. We don't know what the playoff rankings are as of Tuesday. It won't matter until after this weekend. That's for sure.
A lot's going to shake out this weekend and next weekend, and it should be exciting. We've seen some dogs bark, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple more this weekend.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys, and stay tuned for what we're going to bring towards you guys for college basketball as well. That just started last week, and we'll be back next week with David as your host, and Ian and Trey will be joining you there as well. Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.
Good luck.
Appreciate it. Everybody have a good one.